This is the craziest coaching search that I've ever followed personally. And we just got thrown another curveball. Now, the Ohio State offensive coordinator slash wide receivers coach, Brian Hartline, is most definitely in the mix. Let's talk about this shocking development on Locked On West Virginia.
You are Locked On West Virginia, your daily podcast on the West Virginia Mountaineers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And what is up? Welcome in, guys. My name is Mountaineer Paul. I am the host of Locked On West Virginia. Thank you for being here. I hurried up, tossed a hoodie on. I don't even think it's fully clean. That's how quickly I jumped on here, straight from what I was doing. So, look, this is pretty crazy, but I want to, first of all, have to say thank you for being a Locked On podcast subscriber. Thank you for watching the show. Thank you for all you do, guys. It's really great. And for being an everyday listener on the Locked On Podcast Network, where we talk about your team every single day. I don't know how to take this, but Brian Hartline, just came out literally a few minutes ago per Chris Anderson over at 247 Sports. Brian Hartline was interviewed for this job. Now, we don't have a timeline for when this happened. Could have been yesterday, most likely not yesterday, or leading up to yesterday. But his name's in the mix. And he is a superstar. He's definitely a name that I could get excited about if it's not Richrod. Obviously, I want it to be Richrod. Everybody, I think at this point, wants it to be Richrod. Pat McAfee's begging to introduce him on the show. But here we are, right? I mean, here we are. We're talking about somebody else. Now, there's a lot of theories behind this, and we can kind of get into it. But first of all, let's talk about who Brian Hartline is. I think that would be a good way to start, because I'm sure there are a few of you that are like, why do we want the guy who Chip Kelly replaced as offensive coordinator as our coach? And I'll say this, he's 38 years old. He played at Ohio State, right? Like, he was obviously great player for them. From what I remember, he played for the Dolphins in the NFL. And so he's an accomplished wide receiver for sure. But he's an even more qualified coach, in my opinion. So he's been at Ohio State his entire coaching career. He started off as a quality control assistant and a GA. Then he moved to wide receivers coach. Then in 2023, he was the OC and wide receivers coach. And since this year, he's been the co-offensive coordinator because Chip Kelly came in, and he's the wide receivers coach. Now, what I'll say on that is, man, he is literally, it's not even close. He's the best wide receivers coach in the country. He puts in a lot of, and some of it has to do with Ohio State's brand. But look, he's put in, I don't know how many first-round wide receivers into the draft over the last few years, but it's a lot. It's a lot. So I mean, for me, he's a superstar in the making. If you give him a lot of support, for sure, I think he would be a candidate that would pay dividends at some point. But you can also argue the other side of this. Well, maybe he's a guy that's he's just a stepping stone job. I don't know which one you would look at. Would like to know when this interview happened and where it happened. But with the way they're flying this stuff around, man, it's like insane, really. And on X, I mean, I'm seeing all kinds of Ohio State stuff right now. They're posting things about Brian Hartline with the West Virginia logo. It looks like it's gained a little momentum, but this could be and then Brian Hughes from WOWK just reported this could be a possible hire, young guy versus old guy coach. Pat described this option at the top of his show. It's really down to two now. So that's WOWK meteorologist Brian Hughes saying that. Interesting. So it sounds like we've moved from Jeff Monken to a candidate we could get more excited about. And a lot of you are seem to not be so excited about this in the chat. I'm here to tell you, why you should be. This is no question the most. He's also, by the way, in the conversation for best recruiter in the country. Literally, it's if this guy comes on board, we will get elite talent. I promise. I want Richrod even over him. Obviously, I do. But here's the thing, guys: we can't control this outcome. If it ends up being a guy like Hartline, we need to find some reasons to be excited about it, right? This isn't monking in my this is just how I view it. And look, and I know not everybody's going to agree with this, and that's fine. You don't have to agree, but you have to accept, right? Acceptance is not agreement on certain things. And just like if we would hire Monken, I would have to accept it and get behind that, right? But I would be very unhappy. You got Pat McAfee begging to basically announce this on his show for 2 straight days, right? And it seems like an opportunity has been missed here. I don't want to point any fingers at Rimbaker yet because he has a process and he's doing his process. And, I think 2 things. He's tried to prove to people who don't want Rich hired that he's done everything that he can, interviewed every possible candidate that's available right now. And that's what, that I've tried everybody, and Rich is still standing at the end because there are, people that are kind of powerful that don't want this hire, Richrod. And so I think Ren has to be able to prove to those people, I really tried, right? And then you've got to prove to, other people, like as far as people that watch coaching searches and grade coaching searches, that you interviewed a wide array of candidates, right? Of all ethnicities and all that kind of thing. That people watch that. They do, whether people like it or not. There are people that would point out that, West Virginia never had a black head coach until Chad Scott interim. There are people that would point that kind of stuff out. So athletic directors, my point is, and I'm not making it about that at all, athletic directors have a lot to consider when doing this. And a lot of these are just formalities. You just have to go through them in order to appease one person or another, one donor or another, one group or another, so that you can just continue on about your business. And also, sometimes people surprise you along the way. I think in this case, Hartline would be a guy that would be in that option or category. We're talking about almost no ceiling here. This is a guy that has elite recruiting ability, obviously an elite wide receivers coach. That would be welcome for us. One thing's for sure, we would have good skill talent again in Morgantown. The only question is, if Rich doesn't come on board, what are the donors going to do? Because if we get Brian Hartline and he's got no support, then it means nothing. And I think that's a question he probably needs answered as well. Why would he leave Ohio State where he's gonna get another offer? Why would he leave there when he could just stick around and get a better offer later on? Because like I said, this is a high risk, high reward kind of hire if it's made. I'm not saying it's going to be made. And it's something that could literally break right now while we're talking about it. Like, people have reported literally today, like they're expecting something within the next 12 to 24 hours for sure now. Like, it's not going to go any longer than that. It's going to happen either today or by in the morning. So something could break at any time. And a lot of people aren't going to like Hartline. I know that because, he is not even a coordinator, but he has been a coordinator. So, to me, it would be a fun hire, but certainly there were better options out there. Probably Kotelnicki is a little bit higher on some people's lists. I could see that. I'm not going to argue that. But he is, to me, an exciting hire. Trying to look up some things about Hartline, but it's kind of hard to while I'm talking to you guys. This is why I try to bring people on to talk while I'm with them, so that we can so that I can look things up while they're talking a little bit here and there. So that's kind of where I'm at about it. But it's definitely not a done deal. So I don't know, man. He interviewed, right? And I think he got, he was one of only, 4 guys that got to the in-person stage of this. So Brian Hartline definitely impressed, right? Like that's one thing you can say for sure. Brian Hartline impressed Ren Baker at some point in time and got an in-person interview over the likes of a lot of other more qualified head coaches. Up next on Locked On West Virginia, guys, but what does this mean for Richrod? And what are the ramifications if it don't happen? I think that's a fascinating question. We need to talk about it next on Locked On West Virginia. And this episode of Locked On West Virginia is going to be brought to you by FanDuel. Get ready to tackle NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sports book, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. When you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats and view the live play-by-play and so much more on the same page you place your bets. You just have to go to FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with 150 in bonus bets if you win that first $5 bet at FanDuel. Don't forget about it. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, and a official sportsbook partner of the National Football League. My cats are literally flying through the air, Superman style, against each other right now. Like they're in one of those moods where they're breaking stuff, knocking stuff off. I'm afraid they're going to unplug the internet or anything at any moment in time. Quick, guys. You can imagine hearing this on podcast right now. It's one thing about being live, man. If the cats start acting up, it's who knows. Somebody wants to know why bring Richrod back. I can give you a lot of great answers for that. He's an elite offensive mind. He's got 20-year plus connections with all the donors. You've got Pat McAfee, who's raring and ready to go, pledging his support, even gone and saying, look, we can do Pat McAfee show episodes in the Coliseum to raise revenue. No other candidate gets that. Yes, he will support whoever's the hire, but it will go 100% farther with Richrod. With Ken Kendrick, it goes 100% farther with Richrod. With Alvarez, it goes 100% farther with Richrod. With Ike, it goes 100% farther with Richrod. All these guys are going to support either way. I'm just telling you, we have an opportunity here to get everybody excited over a specific hire, and they're going to give more for this hire. It's proven. It's been definitely publicized. Governor Justice, Ken Kendrick, and others have put a lot of pressure on Ren during this process to make this hire. So Ren maybe don't want to buck. I mean, look, I wouldn't blame him. I couldn't imagine being in that situation. Or maybe he agrees, and we just don't know it yet. And maybe he's doing his due diligence to quiet naysayers that wouldn't like a Richrod hire. There's a lot of speculation to this that I just can't answer questions about. But as to why Richrod is the hire, he went to Michigan. He was out in 3 years because, first of all, they really figured out he wasn't a fit. In year 2, he had so many guys transfer. It may as well been the transfer portal era. And like I said, they gave him 3 years, in an era when you needed at least 4 or 5. I mean, Neil Brown just got 6 years, right? He got 3 years, guys, at Michigan. I feel like that wasn't fair. And then he went to Arizona and had a bunch of 7 and 8 win seasons, surrounded by one of their only 3 10-win seasons at Arizona. It's a really hard spot to win, harder than West Virginia by a long shot. And now he's at Jacksonville State, to where he's flipped an FCS roster into a conference champion. So he can coach, man. The game has not passed him by. He's still got a lot of vinegar left in him. And he's also got a great coaching staff that we've had some of these guys before. Rick Trickett, one of the greatest offensive line coaches of all time. Like, there are guys on that staff that, unfortunately, Calvin McGee has passed away. That's nobody ever wants to hear, I hate that about that, but it happened. So here we are, I mean, there's more, but those are the financial, in an era where resources trump everything. You win with players, not with X's and O's, right? And in an era where resources matter over everything else, Richrod gets you the most resources. That's just a fact. But Brian Hartline would certainly to bring in some excitement. But it would be a Neil Brown situation again, where this guy's trying to do less with more, or more with less. I'm sorry, in my opinion. Now I don't know what kind of, maybe they pledged some kind of support behind the scenes for him. I have no clue. But yeah, so to me, it's like maybe Rim Baker feels like at full revenue share we'll be able to compete. But with a guy with Richrod, not only will we have full revenue share, but we're going to have a bunch of NIL too to support off to the side. We're going to be able to get, if Richrod comes in, I'll predict we will get some of the top players in the portal this year if Richrod comes in. With Brian Hartline, we may get a few, but I don't know that with him. I know with Richrod, we're going to get some of the top players available. We've already got a top 40 class. And listen, our offensive line is pretty much intact. Like if we can keep the roster together that we have now, for the most part, on the offensive defensive line, replace the back end, get a couple skill position guys and a quarterback, and you've got a squad. You really do. Offensive line's probably good enough to win with. You could Xavier Bosley, freshman All-American, right? At Jacksonville State is on that offensive line. He will probably stay. You've got obviously Kyle Altuner, who is just an elite. He's probably got the chance to be a Zach Frazier type player. Now I'm going to say he's going to be that good, but you've got a guy like Altuner ready to step in at the center spot, and then you've obviously got, when we had the kid that filled in for Wyatt Milam, Johnny Williams, I think that's his name. Forgive me if I forgot his name while I'm doing this. That filled in for Wyatt Milam several times this year, amicably at that. And then if you can keep James White, obviously the signs don't look great right now, but if you bring in Richrod and you show a guy like James White, look, this is what I've done with running backs. Maybe you keep Chad Scott. I think it would be a great hire. If I'm Richrod, I very much consider keeping Chad Scott if he'll stay. And you keep that running back room together for sure, because James White and a Richrod offense would be electric. It's made for him. It really is. He's very much he's not as fast as Steve Slayton was, but he's got more wiggle side to side, so it's the best of both. And he's literally a juke. He's a juke stick. So I love the idea of a Jaheim White and a Richrod offense, and a CJ Donaldson, by the way. He could be our beer truck. So I don't want to get too far ahead of myself here, but I think either, like I said, one of two things have happened. This is it, right? Just made an announcement. Somebody saying that? Let me see. Somebody let me know if that's true. Let's see. Not seeing much. Not seeing much on here, guys. Yeah, but that room, listen to what I'm saying about the offensive line room. This is a room that's been cultivated over 6 years. Yeah, we're losing some starters, but the guys that are waiting to step in, it's a culture. This offensive line room is ready to turn over and be good again. I'm telling you. First of all, we have Xavier Bosley, who was a freshman All-American that didn't play this year because we had, obviously, Nick Malone just had a great year. But Xavier Bosley battled him right up to the end for that job. He almost won it. He was that close. That's one of your best. I mean, he's great. And then obviously you're going to add one of the starter that comes back. And then Kyle Altuner, I think, will start right away as a redshirt freshman. He dominated. I've got video of him dominating 5-star after 5-star after 5-star. His dad made a compilation of him pancaking 5-star defensive lineman his senior year in high school. So he's that good, man. And he impressed a lot of people. If he didn't get injured, he may have played last year, to being honest, at center. So, but yeah, the offensive line room, it started with Zach Frazier. It started with, and ended with Wyatt Milam. Doug Nestor is part of that group. That group has established a workman's type mentality and a way to approach the game under Matt Moore that's been impressive. Listen, if we had any quarterback play this year, that group didn't hardly give up any sacks at all this year. Like they were one of the 10 lowest in the country. Unfortunately, we didn't have a quarterback to throw this year. Running the ball wise, I think I underestimated the loss of Zach Frazier. Up next on Locked On West Virginia, guys, let's put a bow on this episode. And what do I predict will happen? I got a prediction for this. Stick around for it. This is Locked On West Virginia. And this episode of Locked On West Virginia is brought to you by Omaha Steaks, guys. Nothing delivers comfort and joy quite like the unrivaled quality and taste of Omaha Steaks. It's guaranteed perfection in every single bite. And right now, you can save on unforgettable gifts with 50% off site-wide at omahasteaks.com. Plus, score an extra $30 off with promo code COLLEGE. With 5 generations of experience, they consistently deliver the world's best steak experience, and the gifting experts at Omaha Steaks have made it easy to deliver the perfect gift with thoroughly curated gift packages featuring gourmet favorites. From legendary steaks to mouth-watering desserts and more, save 50% off site-wide for a limited time at omahasteaks.com. Plus, the listeners get an extra $30 off with promo code COLLEGE. That's 50% off at OMHAA and an extra $30 off with promo code COLLEGE. Just remember, guys, minimum purchases do apply. All right, guys, we're back. So this has been just a crazy search, right? It's been great for business, for me personally. We've grown a lot at this point in time. I mean, there was a time when I was happy with 200 people in a chat, and to have thousands is just, the enthusiasm for this search has been great. I hope most of you stick around. It would make me really happy. It would make me really happy to keep a lot of you guys. I truly mean that. Like, you guys have just made my entire life. A guy that, I know I said this yesterday, but a guy that thought he had no prospects in life. This here has really just made my life, man. It really has. So anyways, don't forget to hit that like button before you leave, please. Hit that subscribe button. And definitely share the video out with anybody that you can. If you're watching this on X, just hit that repost button or like it, drop a comment below. If you're watching on YouTube, please drop a comment below. All that stuff helps, guys, and pushes me out to a larger and broader audience. So, I think it's part of the process, obviously, to look at a guy like Hartline, and I can see where Ren probably figured out he couldn't sell Monken. I'm just guessing here. But hey, the Ohio podcast. Yeah, I definitely I was trying to grab your attention. Man. But tell people in the comments what kind of coach is the Hartline, and just educate them a little bit, because I've tried to say, like, obviously he's in the conversation for one of the best recruiters in the sport. And he's obviously an elite wide receivers coach, evidenced by the receiver production. You look at what he's done. I think people are asking questions like, hey, why did he get demoted? Why did Chip Kelly get promoted? Those kind of things. And this is, if this goes further, I'm going to need people to come on to talk to about that. So if you have a podcast, which looks like you do, check out the Ohio podcast, guys, and maybe we can figure something out and have you come on. I would love to answer some questions about Hartline if it goes further than today. I don't see that happening. I think the momentum is still with Richrod. And I think Richrod will get the job. That's my prediction. Although what worries me is, and I'll say this publicly, all the information about Richrod has come from his supporters and his side. That includes the donor pool, whether it's Pac-Man, whether it's Pat McAfee, whether it's donors. It's Richrod's hired stuff. It's all from them, right? And they support Richrod. And I just, if it doesn't happen, it's going to be because Rim Baker felt differently and went another way. And he maybe felt pressured, right? We got Governor Justice, people like that involved. I don't know to what extent. I don't know how bad, but I've heard it's been rough for Ren. So if it doesn't happen, that's because Ren was pushed away or felt like he was being forced. I don't know. We'll find out more later, I'm sure. But The Ohio State podcast says in the comments he was technically never demoted. He's never called plays. Ryan Day was still the offensive play caller. He's a great family man, very confident recruiter, and understands NFL concepts. Kelly was brought in because Day wanted to play caller with experience. Thank you so much. That definitely helps. So as far as he's ready to, I think I would love. Maybe we just need to have you come on, but I don't know. We have to wait at least past tomorrow because obviously the hire could be announced anytime. But if this happens with him, man, we can definitely come on. I have some great questions for you, especially when it comes to is he ready to lead a program, those kind of things. Curious to what the Ohio State folks think there. It's definitely he's been an exciting name in spaces for a couple years now, and at 38 years old, maybe he's ready to lead a program. And look, one thing we've heard all along, guys. Rim Baker doesn't want an established guy for a couple reasons. This is just per my sources. Number one, he wants a guy that he can help mold. Some people say control. I'm not going to go that far, but I think he wants a guy that can help mold. Neil Brown was similar to that. He's a guy that you can hang out in the hotel room with. He's a guy that you can hang out with outside of the sport. Neil Brown had him over. He kept Neil Brown with their house. Their families became intertwined, from what I understand, to an extent. And some people, this happens in athletic departments a lot because there's a code usually at work, right? When you're not supposed to do that. Well, and then with Neil Brown and Rim Baker, they just hit it off to the point to where they became really good friends. So trust me, it was a hard decision for them. It would be a really hard decision for them to do that. But otherwise, I think, it's going to be tough for Ren to hire anybody but Rich here. And the reason, obviously I've said it a couple times, but I'll say it again. The reasons for hiring Richrod are, look, I've seen the proposal. Not only will we have full revenue share. Now, this part wasn't on the proposal, but Rim Baker's already said we're going to have full revenue share, right? And then there's been an estimated $8 to $12 million in NIL support, which would place West Virginia in the top 20 nationally, right? Ohio State is at $20 million. Texas was at $22 million. Those guys are all in the top 10 in the playoff. We would probably be in that playoff conversation, if not further. So, it's going to be great. Many people believe Hartline could be the face of Ohio State's program in the future, given his recruiting chops. He will build a heck of a program with talent. What Hartline will need as a head coach would be an experienced OC in DC. Yeah, that's a great question, too, because if you hire a guy like Hartline, can you afford to hire? Because we're not Ohio State, man, so can you afford to hire the necessary OC in DC that he would really need? Not a Jordan Leslie. You're not promoting from within. You're bringing in a new guy. There's a lot of questions that I would have for that. And I think with Richrod, he's got an experienced staff already at Jacksonville State. A lot of these guys have been at the Power 5 level before. Obviously, Rick Trickett's put literally maybe hundreds into the NFL in the offensive line. He's got a great OC. He calls plays, obviously, but he's got a good OC. Quarterback's coach. He's got quarterbacks. He's got a little bit of everything on that staff that's been proven before. So Rich seems like a safer hire, and he could even upgrade probably. Like I've been told that there are some blank checks being offered for the Richrod hire. I'm just telling you, it's not about what's the word I'm looking for here? It's not just like blowing smoke. Like there's real legitimate big donor money behind the Richrod hire. And I just don't know for sure if that's everything with Hartline or anybody else. I'll read one more from the Ohio podcast and then move on. What about Kevin Wilson at OC? Just got fired at Tulsa, but has experience coaching with Hartline? Maybe. Bring back a Dye? Yeah, absolutely. I think a Dye would be a great possible, so there's a lot to it. I would support Hartline. He's one of the only ones I would have supported. Kotelnicki, Hartline, and a couple others would have been fair for me. Even Chadwell I could accept, but like Munkin, no. This is a guy that's almost 60 years old himself and just had back-to-back 6 seasons before he won 11 games this year. Like what are we doing here? You might as well just hire Richrod at that point. So we'll find out soon. Maybe as soon as I'm done with this, we'll find out. But be looking for that Ohio State or West Virginia, wherever which way do we go, higher. And it's going to be fun, guys. Don't forget to like. Don't forget to subscribe. And thank you for watching. Yes, cheers, Beers and Mountaineers. I thank you for your super chat, by the way. He said, thanks y'all for all your reporting on the ears, brother. I'm going to do it as soon as we get off here since it's at the end of the show. I need to turn super chats off. And if you want to support me, cash tag is ROCKEL 85. If you want to support me on Cash App, and then at Paul Rockle on PayPal. If you want to support me, I don't ever ask for money. Really, all I ask for is support. Really, I just repost it, comment, whatever you can do. But if you want to support me financially, this is my job, and I spend a lot of time on it. Literally 15 hours a day right now, especially. You can definitely support me at those two spots, and I would very much appreciate it. Other than that, I don't have much else for you guys. Let's just keep monitoring this, and I'll be ready to go live in a moment's notice when something happens, guys. Thanks for watching. Don't forget, guys, thank you for making Locked On West Virginia your first listen. For your second listen, check out the Locked On Big 12 podcast. Drake Toll leads the conversation in conference realignment news and pulls no punches when it comes to covering every team in the Big 12. Find Locked On Big 12 on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. All right, guys. Is it Richrod? Is it Hartline? Is it another name? I think we'll find out. I can't wait. Hopefully you'll be here when we find out. Until then, guys, this episode's over, and I'm out.